Hey folks, Steve here with another Plan 1919 video. In this video we will be looking at the final turn 7, 8, 9. And yeah, we're going to get through it. I already did most of the German stuff. What I did do here, because there's no control markers, which is really odd because there were extra counters that could have been used for that purpose in this game. I used the French replacements because they don't get any more. I'll just mark Charleroi as Allied controlled, basically. You can see, things are looking pretty bad. The Germans are pulling back where they can. So this is what they did with their move. They sort of pulled some units back. They can't quite get to Luxembourg. They can't do a whole lot, to hold the Allies back. But they can't just pull everybody off and back. Like the space for time for manpower, they're just doing everything they can to put guys in the way of the Allies. And I did pull off earlier, probably in previous turns, the German Mountaineer unit back to Strasbourg, just to ensure that it is very unlikely to be taken. But the Allies only need to take 5 more morale from the Germans, which can come from any number of places. There's still St. Quentin for 1 morale point, which is why I still have these guys over here. They're kind of there to hold onto that 1 morale. Maubeuge right here is kind of besieged, but we have a lot of factors in there to kind of keep it hold up. And then there's Liège way over here. There's the German units over here. The real question is going to be, with the Germans' ability to get 2 steps per turn, are they going to be able to put enough forces in the cities to just not allow the Allies to throw enough men at the cities to take them, where they could end the game with morale of 1 and win? It's still possible for the Germans to win, basically. They're not as bloodied as they could be, but now the Allies can kind of go a little bit more for broke if they really needed to try to knock things loose. Couple of things that I'm having trouble with, though, as the Germans, is that there's not many places they can go. So I put some health back here and got these guys set up, and you might say, well, Steve, you could move these guys and restore supply, but obviously on the Allied move, they'll just do this and ensure that, these guys are out of supply and they can't be saved. So at this point, I kind of have to let things go. So this is at the end of the German turn, basically. I mean, I've done as much as I can do to hold on and let the Allies try to attack us, the German half of me, I guess. But these guys will go away. So there's a German corps out, and then a German corps out of Ghent. And just to be clear on that, we will go ahead and just mark the morale down for Ghent. And as we get into the Allies, what really can the Allies do? Well, they can probably get that unit back to health. And that's really it for British replacements. The American replacements, for what it's worth, they certainly can do something. I think what we'll do with the Allied tank replacements is get them situated and railed down here where they can be of use. These ones will move let's see, 1, 2, 3. Get those tanks down there, and yeah, I'm going to take myself off camera and handle the Allied action for turn 7. We'll be back. Okay, so as the Allies, I realize I might not even have to take Brussels or Antwerp because we are cutting off their supply lines if we just moved like I did here. So those guys are going to get out of supply markers, and then they could attempt to attack here and here, but it's almost certain that they're not going to be able to do enough damage to change the game state. So this is actually, I hate to say it, I might already win now, but we'll throw out a couple of combats and just see how well it goes. So down here, we could try, I think I might try to do an attack here. So we've got 9, 18, 22 to 3, which is 7 to 1 odds. And we got a 5, so yeah, he's toast. We take 2 step losses, 1 and 2. And then it's going to be, you know, we can do a, I'll just do an infiltration move now because I don't think it'll matter a whole lot. There we go. Which will effectively, you can see, knock these guys out of supply, knock these guys out of supply. Soon we'll be able to just encircle this entirely. Down here, over here, got a lot of attacks going on. We'll zoom out a little bit. So we could attack here. So this is basically, unfortunately not a concentric attack, but 6, 8, 16, 22, yeah, 30 to 6. So 5 to 1 odds, straight up. Okay. That sucks. I rolled a 1, but it doesn't really matter. 4 step losses. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll just, like so. Then we can attack here, so that's awfully bloody probably. The 11, we'd have 10, 13, 16, 20. 20 to 11 is not quite enough. So it's really only 1 to 1 odds. Straight up, but we could probably do that. You only get a 2, so take a step loss. And take 3 step losses, so 1, 2, 3. Up here, I have 2, 4, 6, 9, 18 to 4. It's 4 to 1 odds. -1, we'll throw in an air to make it balanced. Okay, that's 2 and 2, so you can step loss, retreat, step loss, step loss. Oops. Things are not looking good for the Germans, probably any which way you want to look at it. Okay, and I think that's it for that. And what we will do is second combats. So let's see, do we want to do anything up here? Well, we could attack 1, 2, 7 to 3, 2 to 1 odds, -1. We'll use another airs for 2 to 1 straight up. It didn't roll well. So take some hits. 1, 2, Uh, 3. I gotta lose something, actually. That sucks. Okay. Well, that was unfortunate. And anything else do we want to do? I don't think so. I could attack or do something up here. We could try to take St. Quentin right now with 6, 9, 12, 15. This would be 2 to 1. St. Quentin is a town. So 2 to 1 minus 1. Make that an error. 2 to 1 straight up. 3 step losses. 1. Say 1, 2, 3. Oh, that sucked. Yeah, I rolled poorly. That's what you get. Okay, we're gonna go right into turn 8, and right away say these guys are out of supply. Let's see. Oh, maybe these guys are not out of supply. I'm trying to think if did I actually infiltrate move them? I think I did. They are not actually out of supply. So, and I'm sure somebody will have noted that earlier, but that's the situation. Can the Germans save these guys? No. They could try 1, 2, 3. And attempt to take Charleroi back in the next turn, but it won't really matter, will it? No, I think this is game. I can't figure out any other way to save the situation. So if I just set, no matter what I do, I can't get any more morale points. So the Germans have said, I've done as much as I can do. Even if I attacked here, force these guys to retreat, I'd have to do a lot. That would be our only choice. But even then, I don't think that's enough. And we could try it, right, and say, okay, if it's 10 to 9, that's 1 to 1. Yeah, 1 to 1. And it would be 1 and 1. Step losses. They could try to attack again. 9 to 6 is still 1 to 1. And 2 step losses to 1. That wouldn't be enough. So they would fail to try to make a breakthrough to get to Mons or something. Let's see, they could try to make a suicide attack. Or no, they can't. Well, they're not in Azak right now. So they could come down this way and try to make something happen. But again, they would just open it up. Yeah, there's no path forward as the Germans. No matter what I did, if I took this out, I came down, attacked here, managed to get free, next action, Commonwealth just takes it, and then they take this almost no matter what. So that's it, that's game, right? Germans, if they do nothing else, they can't do anything to save these guys. They are out of supply and surrounded, so they're removed, isolated, and then the British come into Brussels and Antwerp, and that's 5. They only have 4 left. That's game. So the British, Americans, and French win Plan 1919. Almost, it's still a heavy north strategy, and a south strategy gets it. And we pretty much had this as well. So this would be another one where these guys got surrounded. Not much that they could do to kind of break out. I mean, they could have maybe tried some suicide attacks, but they would have eliminated themselves very likely. There's just not much that the Germans could have done else at this point. Any attacks they would have tried would have just drained their units more, and they have less to gain from doing that. So yeah, I think because this video is so far very short, so we call this a victory on turn 8 officially. End of turn 8, the Allies win. So a turn early. Let me do a break here, and then I'll kind of do a mini post-mortem on Plan 1919. Okay, so I'll spend a few minutes here doing a mini post-mortem for Plan 1919, the variant scenario here in the 1918-1919 Storm the West game. I will say I enjoyed this Plan 1919 variant. I think it brings a few more twists to the game that otherwise wouldn't be there. I think what really kind of stands out, and this, for anyone probably familiar with the game, this probably is not anything particularly surprising, I would think. But the whole interaction of the heavy tank and light tank groupings does make a pretty big difference in terms of the gameplay. So I'm trying to find... Oh yeah, there's my other missing tank. I think these guys right here are really the star of the show of the variant. But they're not as effective as I thought maybe they were going to end up being, or maybe I just didn't use them correctly. Because what you really need, what I realize here is that this is still not World War II. You're not going to have a break in one line, a secondary break elsewhere, and you're going to create some huge encirclement. That's still not going to happen in this game unless things have gone extraordinarily well for you. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that your armor are going to take all the hits first that you may take in your CRT. And again, if you're trying to game out the CRT and figure out how many losses, I mean, if you have a stack, some infantry, several infantry, and a heavy tank, and a fast tank, with the way the stacking works and the losses work, I mean, if you take 3 losses, for instance, it was a highly bloody battle, you're going to lose all your tanks. If you take, 2 hits, you're going to have reduced tanks. If you take 1 hit, you're probably in better shape. So I found it makes sense not maybe to have, in retrospect, right? I didn't maybe always play it this way, but not have these tank stacks separate, but have them really close together so that, even if you take 2 to 3 step losses, you can retain some form of fast and heavy tanks in that 2 hex area. If you're attacking from 2 hexes to 1 hex, you have the tanks all together, massed tank assault, so that on the subsequent infiltration move in secondary combat, you still have these guys. And what's really important is that these fast tanks can do that additional hex of infiltration. The only problem is these guys are very weak. So it doesn't do a huge amount of help, and they can't bring other guys with them into that second hex. So it's not like, you have these fast tanks that are, creating this really awesome situation for you because of the way the reinforcements work and where the general units are going to be. The Germans can pretty easily, find some way to wrap around the spearhead of those fast tanks and crush them. So then grabbing that extra hex, to me, doesn't seem super valuable. But the ability of the heavy tanks to take a hit and stick around and still be able to provide tank bonus is a big help. So obviously those are really important in cracking the line, but the same problem happens as in the base game, where if you lose the tank units, you got to reinforce them, bring them back. They're going to start up here. They can help, but eventually, once you're out in the east here, the amount of movement it takes for them to get up here, and the fact that they're maybe only providing a +1 to help combats, they're just not as effective. We're sort of outrunning even our tanks' ability to be very helpful, I guess. I mean, they're helpful no matter what, and the combat factors are great, but you're trying to find ways to get morale as quickly as possible. I will say that the anti-tank units never really mattered for combat because I never bothered to attack them, but what it did do is it forced me to attack in other places. So when I stuck this guy in wherever it was, Lille or whatever, and now I realize that was a total waste because Lille can't have tank attacks anyway because it's a city. That was dumb of me. But I operated on the idea that I shouldn't even try to do a tank combat against these guys. And so it sort of funneled me elsewhere. I had to kind of go further out to attack and not even bother against those anti-tank units. It's not as though the anti-tank units bonus is so great, or their ability to nullify the tanks are so great, right? You could still attack that hex with infantry. But again, if you're going to make the tanks valuable, you're going to go where they're most effective. So if you plug those anti-tank in just the right places, in some ways you can kind of guide where the allies are going to go with their tanks. And I guess that's pretty standard for any anti-tank unit in any Hex Encounter wargame. But it played into this quite well. As I got towards the end, it definitely, I think it was on turn 5 or 6 where I was like, oh, I think the Germans are going to lose. I just can't get things where they need to go. I might have not played it as well, for the Germans as I could have, but that's always the case, right? Every time I play this, it's like, oh, maybe I didn't play one side as good as I could have. The Allies rolled really low this game, and they still won. So I'm not sure what that's indicative of. I've rolled so many 1s and 2s as the Allies this game. It was pretty remarkable, the fact that I can remember that it was that bad. Where sometimes you can go, oh, well, it was a wash. We rolled high, we rolled low. No, I rolled pretty low. But I made it so that even the low die rolls didn't really matter. We picked bloody enough combats that something was going to break for the Germans, and we did make that happen. So yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what I could have done better as the Germans. Maybe set up or moved around a little bit earlier to try to catch things. Maybe de-emphasized this and pulled units off sooner so that they could strat move away. It's really hard because these guys can't strat move unless they're on St. Quentin or they run back to Sedan. So it's really hard to get these Germans somewhere else when you need them to. So if you think you're going to need to do that, then obviously you're going to do it earlier rather than later, which maybe was my mistake. But even if you pull units away from here, then okay, you're giving the French the opportunity, even though they don't have as many replacements, to maybe try to get that wedge going where they can start to bisect the map and cause a bunch of problems. And on that note, the fact that the French don't get any replacement points meant that their operational capability was kaput within the first couple of turns, right? I mean, they got so weak that it's like, okay, well, you don't want to attack with the French, because if they start to disintegrate, well, then the Germans are going to come across the line and they're going to grab places like Rez and the Chalons or something down here and really throw off the morale situation to such a degree that the Allies are going to lose as well. So the only bummer is I definitely get to that point in this one where, once we were at our replacement points, I mean, the Germans were just never going to attack. They were just never, ever going to attack unless it was really a really specific circumstance were they going to attack. So the whole thing with oh, it's the Germans' turn, well, they shuffle a few units around and now they're done. That's as much as they can do. If I had rationed the German replacement points a little bit better, maybe that would have gone better somehow. I don't know. If I had been more willing to retreat the whole line back off the trenches. But, the problem occurs here where, okay, if you're not in the trenches, then the Allies are going to have a much easier time beating you up. So I think it was still smart to stay on the trench line where I could, because otherwise, I mean, once they're off, we could see it over here. I mean, once the Germans are off the trench line, it's much easier for the Allies to trade losses for losses, and the Americans can just keep pushing, because they have the steps that they can take. They just have better cohesion overall. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm glad that I did this Plan 1919 playthrough. It was pretty short, right? Nine turns, not as long as some of the other ones could be. It still went to turn 8, so a solid 8 turns of continuous play. Again, still played pretty fast, and I managed to fit a lot in the videos because I took some of the drag time out. I didn't record me just moving every single counter. So I hope that was valuable for folks, and you could follow that. But this was definitely cool, and I'm glad that they included this in the package, because I think, the 1918 scenarios are all great. They're fun, and you can jump in at different points. I think this adds a little cherry on top, where you can really kind of play around with some of that early tank warfare, and know that, no, we're not yet at World War II doctrine, but you can start to see the value in what the tanks are doing. Again, it's ahistorical, but hey, a neat thing to play around with. So really glad that they included Plan 1919 in this, and they got the counters and all that worked out. Really cool. I'm still a little bothered by the fact that I think we had some extra counters that should have been control markers. They should have thrown in at least, I don't know, 4 or 5 control markers just to kind of help with that. But I'm not mattering a whole lot. It's just, if you have the extra counters, which I'm pretty sure they did, you could have maybe used a couple more of those. And I'm still kind of annoyed by the fact that the Japanese replacement marker doesn't exist. They could have easily have done that, but maybe they can print those in a C3I issue at some point. I don't know. But yeah, okay. Well, I think that'll do it for this one, guys. That's the final, turn 7 and 8 of the Plan 1919. I think at this point I've played the game enough that I have a pretty good feel for it. I think I know what my criticisms are. I think I know what the game does really well. So I think I will do a full review sometime this week. So I guess look for that. If you're watching this, it'll probably be coming up very, very soon. And what I haven't done is put all of these 1918 videos in a playlist. So I'm probably going to do that as well here soon. So we'll get that all organized up, guys, and we'll give it. Obviously, I'm pretty positive feeling on the game. But the full review, we'll get into the specifics of some of the stuff and the criticisms and all that stuff. So, yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you managed to stick through all of this, I appreciate the viewership. I know my subscriber count is slowly ticking up. Really appreciate that. And all the new subscribers, I hope this is good stuff, and I hope future videos will entertain you. But yeah, until next time, guys, take care and keep on gaming.